Humble request to the brothers that have time can come closer. Inshallah, the program will be beneficial for all of us. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lahu. ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. قال الله عز وجل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. وقال في موضع آخر يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. Respected honorable brothers, respected listeners, the topic of discussion for today is the justice system and fairness in the life of Sahaba radiallahu majma'in. Now there may be a few stories that you may have heard of, but I believe there may be other stories, quite a few stories and lessons that we can take from today's program, which I don't think you are familiar with. Just to bring your attention towards the ayat which I recited in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks very clearly, O ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, those who bring faith, O believers, be firm, kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada, be firm for justice and be witness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ لِلَّهِ شُهَدَاءَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ, and let your enmity, your hate, your disliking, your animosity of a nation provoke you towards injustice. Just because you hate someone, just because you don't like someone, you're not going to stand up for him. You're not going to speak up for him. You're not going to support him because you don't like him. Even though he is on right, he is on the haqq, he is on truth, you will not support him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks very clearly, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا اِعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Be just. Justice, and inshallah today we will learn what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means by just and being justice and having justice. In another ayat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah An-Nisa, this ayat was Surah Al-Ma'idah. In Surah An-Nisa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ, be firm, stand up for justice, be firm. كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ, even if the verdict is given against you, even you have to stand up and the matter is against you, but still, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be firm on justice. Justice must prevail under any circumstances. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ, even if it goes against your own parents. Justice is justice. Fairness is fairness, even if it's against you or it's against your parents. أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ أَوِ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, or it goes against your relatives. And obviously, no one wants to go against themselves. No one wants to go against their own parents. No one wants to go against their own first cousins and their close family members. They may go against others, but not to these three categories here. Whoever it may be, as long as you're firm on justice, stand up. كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ إِن يَكُنْ غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَىٰ بِهِمَا. Regardless of your condition, whether you're poor or rich, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of you. Don't worry about that. Stand up for justice and be firm. اِعْدِلُوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, إن يكون غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا. Don't follow your desires, lest your desire provokes you and takes you away from justice and does not allow you to be fair to one another. فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا. Do not follow your desires, lest your desire does not allow you to be just, lest your desire does not allow you to be fair to one another. فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وَإِن تَلْوُوا أَوْ تُعْرِضُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. You twist your tongues, you turn away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best exactly what's in your heart, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's happening, and you will have to give accountability to before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this is just a translation of the ayat. Now let's understand, Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, when I had asked Brother Mus'ab, I said that, give me some of the topics that we can talk about. Now most of the topics were related to Sahaba radiallahu majma'in. When you read about the Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, all I can say, before we can go into this topic here, all I can say, I wish, even though people call me a scholar, but I never really looked into the life of Sahaba radiallahu majma'in until I had to do these topics here. Hayatul Sahaba is such a wonderful kitab. I personally feel that every one of us, if you really want to understand your deen and your religion, and if you really want to understand Quran, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to know the life of Sahaba radiallahu majma'in. If you don't know this life of Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, you will never understand the practicality of Quran, how the Quran was practiced. Obviously, one thing is theory, but whenever you do theory, it has to correspond to some kind of residency. If you're doing if you do medicine, then you have to do residency. You have to do a co-op program. You have to connect yourself with some kind of work experience. If you don't have work experience and just have theory, it doesn't mean anything. Like that, we learn Quran, we understand Quran, but the practical life of the Quran is not before us. And in order for us to understand that, we have to understand the life of Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, because many are things we don't practice, and you can attest to it when we go through the stories. Let's go through a few of the stories of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first was in Sahih Bukhari. We find there was an incident, and this happened after the conquest of Fath al-Makkah, when Makkah was conquered. Around that time, Fatima Makhzumiyya, a woman who came from, she had a habit of stealing, and it so happened that she was convicted of her theft, and now this case was about to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. By now, the rule was already in place. وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا. If someone steals, obviously, these were capital punishment, which does not exist in a non-Muslim country. In Islamic country, in some of the Muslim countries, obviously that's a question, which is a Muslim country, which is not a Muslim country. But we're not talking about anything related to Canada, so just keep that in mind. But I'm just trying to explain what is in Quran. So وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا. Obviously, this rule was such that if someone steals something, then his hand would be cut if that person is convicted and if it's proven. Now, when I went to Saudi, I've been going there for quite a few years now, about 7-8 years. So when I went there a couple of times to Jeddah, the shopkeepers used to tell me that during the time of King Faisal, and I don't know who was before King Faisal, Abdul Aziz, I believe. So around that time, no one had the audacity and courage to go to anyone's shop when Adhan was called. They did not even put their shutters down. All they did was when they heard the Adhan, everyone had to go to the masjid and pray salat. No one would dare go into someone's shop. Even if it's expensive shop like a gold shop, no one would go. And now obviously Jeddah, things are not the same as it was before. So now they put the shutters down or they put something before, but they all have to go for salat when the adhan is called. So if you just have one lesson, one person is convicted and obviously his hand is chopped or something, it becomes a lesson for everyone. No one will have the courage to do. And this was done publicly. Again, obviously this is not practice and no one should ever practice this in Canada. This obviously you need a system. For all this capital punishment, it can't be practiced like this. You need an Islamic judicial system. An Islamic judicial system does not exist. A lot of people talk about Sharia law, Sharia law. When you say Sharia law, people only think about cutting hands and these kind of things here. But you should keep in mind that you can never apply that because there is no judicial system. There is no Islamic judicial system. So that is not even a question to practice that. Nevertheless, so this woman here, Fatima, her message came to, her message was the story that she stole. This was to be brought before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The people were, they came from a good, noble tribe, so they were scared that her hand would be cut. So now what happened was, they were looking for a person who can take this message to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and intercede. You know what intercede means? Someone who can talk on behalf of someone and say that, can you please, so he will request. So they were looking at a person who's close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who can talk for us, and so we can get away from this punishment here. So they chose who? Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu. Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu, his title was what? Hibbur Rasul. What was his title? Hibbur Rasul. He was a son of Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu anhu, and he was the beloved of Rasulullah. Hibbur Rasul means the beloved one of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved him very much. And he was a young companion. Imagine, big people are looking for this little boy here. That you're very close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Go and can you ask? So Usama went. When Usama radiallahu anhu, when he came, and at this moment Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he conveyed this message that, O Prophet of Allah, they come from, they have told me this, and can you look into the matter and see if you can help them out? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became very angry. He became very frustrated and angry, and he gave a khutbah, and he said, Amma ba'd, فإنما هلك الناس قبلكم أنهم كانوا إذا سرق فيهم الشريف تركوه وإذا سرق فيهم الضعيف أقاموا عليه الحد والذي نفس محمد بيده لو أن فاطمة بن محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم سرقت لقطعت يدها. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood up, and he conveyed the message, and he said, keep this in mind, that the previous nation, they were very unjust, with the Shariat. They would apply it upon the low class people, but the noble ones, they would forgive them. And that is why they were destroyed. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that keep this in mind, that even if it was Fatima bint Muhammad, if it was my own daughter Fatima, if she was to steal something, I would have treated her exactly the same. Every person in Islam is equal, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're non-Muslim. Everyone is equal when it comes to justice. Everyone is equal. And then after that, obviously the matter was, this Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the verdict, and it happened. After that, she became a true Muslim, a very good Muslim, and and obviously her iman became very strong, and she was very close to Aisha radiallahu anha. Along with this, moving on, just another story of Rasulullah sallallahu. I want you to understand, the social life of Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in, they were just like us human beings. They had problems, but I want you to understand how they used to resolve their problems. So let's take another story. There is another story of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One day Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was standing, and a Bedouin comes, and he says, "O Prophet, give me back my money. You borrowed money from me. Where's the money? I need it back." He was so harsh. He was so harsh. There is a way of talking to someone, but he was so harsh with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say anything. But the people, the companions, they were frustrated. And you're speaking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam like this. I wish if you can remember these words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and put it down into your heart. Someone comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's harsh tone, very, impolite, no respect at all. He comes to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahaba radiallahu ajmain are frustrated. Why is he speaking like this? What does he have to say? At that occasion, they were saying things to that person, a Bedouin, and they were about to challenge him. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Why are you sticking up for me? Why don't you stick up for the person who has right?" What did he say? Why are you siding with me? Why are you not siding with Sahibul Haq, the person who is worthy of the money? Imagine at that time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Why are you siding with me? Who is going to take side with who? The person who has right. Yes, I do owe him money." And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the very famous Sahabiya, a woman, a female companion, Khawla bint Tha'laba radiyallahu anha, the Surah Al-Mujadala, قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا. All those ayats were revealed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took a loan from her, and she gave some money, and he paid this Bedouin off, and he even gave extra. Now look at this here, that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not take any action. His social life was such that even a Bedouin, even the lowest person can approach Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how simple he was. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for sahibul haq, the person who was worthy of something, he was given full support. Now my brothers, I ask you, let's take the same example and let's ask a question to ourselves. You have a friend of yours, Abdullah has a friend Yusuf, and Yusuf has done something wrong. And Abdullah knows that Yusuf has done something wrong. I ask you, do you think Abdullah will speak the truth? Or will he support his friend? Look at the system today. Many times we have problem, but just because he is my friend, just because he's my relative, just because he's my brother, I'm going to stick up for him, even though he is wrong. The least, if you don't stick up, you don't support him, you know what you're going to do? You will not speak against him at all. Simply because he is your friend. Simply because you're a brother. But this was not the case, and this was not the fact at the time of the Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, my brothers. Let's take a few more story here. Another story that we learn, looking at the fairness and justice system within the Sahaba radiallahu majma'in. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that, and this is a normal fact that happens to many muftis and qadis and judges. Rasulullah, two Ansars came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I believe this hadith is also in Bukhari. Ibn Abi Shaybah takes this hadith out, but all the other scholars have narrated this hadith too. Two Ansars, they were fighting, and they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this matter was related to what? Inheritance. This is a very big issue nowadays. I always ask you, I hope the brothers that have come from India, Pakistan, and those places, there was a case I was dealing with this week, and you'll be surprised, our needs and how much we're attached to this world. If you have an old case of mirath, don't let it linger and keep it pending. Solve it immediately. The moment the person dies, you're supposed to solve the issue. But unfortunately, in our custom, we keep it for generations after generations. I have dealt cases of 1919, 1920, 1918. Those cases. And Islamically, subhanallah, if a person was to come to a mufti or a scholar, anyone, to solve this problem here, it's a very difficult one. And it's not an easy question. If someone came, and one party came, a very big party came to me, because imagine, when this party came to me, it's called munasakha in Arabic language. So when this party came and said that, there's a property, and I'm not going to mention the name of the place, but there's a property there, and we want to sell that property. Who did it belong to? A person who passed away, just say Abdullah, who passed away in 1918. Okay. So what do we do? Well, I said that, and this is what the Sharia recommends, that from 1918 till 2012, every person that passed away, you have to remember them. So after Abdullah, his son who passed away, who did he leave behind? When his son passed away, who did he leave behind? Generation after generation. So I did quite a few cases like this. One of the cases I did, it had about 14 to 15 generations. Okay? Now, obviously everyone can't remember the names. So the first thing that you have to do is, and I had a big party sitting with me in one of the masjids. So I had to confirm that. Okay, so in 1918 this brother passed away. Does everyone agree? Okay, he left behind this many people. Okay, yes. And then after that, who passed away? This person passed away. And you have to be so accurate. You have to date it, and you have to be very, very accurate. And then you have to so just drawing up the question will take you a couple of hours. And then you have to verify, cross-check and things like that. You have to verify that. And then after that, obviously it's our job to work on the question, which takes another couple of hours. And it's a very detailed question that you have to work. It's one of those most complex questions that not everyone understands anyways. But there was another problem in that too. After putting the whole puzzle together, and then now someone comes and calls me and says that, we forgot to mention this family. So you have to start the whole thing again. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say here is that, my brothers, back in the days, there was a case, I remember, the property back then was only 600 rupees. They sold the property for 600 rupees. And that property today is worth So now, then no one cared about it. Yeah, take it, no problem. We don't need it. We're in Africa, we're in South Africa, we're in England, we're in Canada, America. We don't need the property. But now that same property is worth, in American dollars, about $20 million. So now, we want the property. So now what's happening? The great grandchildren are going after the property again. This is the problem. Why are we leaving our estate for our generations to fight? It's my estate, I should be taking care of it. My father has passed away, it's my responsibility that I take care of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, you will never find any details in the Quran. You pick up salat. It's a very important aspect of salat, deen, isn't it? You have to pray salat, 5 times salat. Can you tell me, Rasulullah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned you have to pray 4 rakat Zuhr salat, 4 rakat Isha, 2 rakat Fajr? Even the timings are not so precise. They're mentioned in the Quran, but they're not so precise. Zakat, it's an important subject, isn't it? Important aspect. Can you tell me the details of zakat in the Quran? No. How about Hajj? Very important. Do you find the details of it? There is only one aspect that you will find details, precise details in the Quran, and that is what? Inheritance. Other than that, nothing else. We find it in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. So my brothers, obviously this subject just came to my mind. So they were fighting over miras. This is something that we have to solve immediately. We should not leave it for our children to fight over. And so many fights are taking place. In South Africa there was a case. And obviously this case was related to billion, not million, billions of dollars of property. And they even had the Grand Mufti involved. But then again, when he gave the verdict against them, they didn't accept it. Because obviously you have, your heart is attached to the property and you're not able to take it. Nevertheless, so two people were fighting over inheritance, and then they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, "Innakum takhtasimuna ilayya wa innama aqdi bi ra'yi fima lam yanzil alayya fih." You people fight, and you people bring the case to me, and I may not know the details of it, just only the details that you have provided. Other than that, I don't have any other details. فَمَنْ قَضَيْتُ لَهُ فِيهِ بِحُجَّتِهِ يَقْتَطِعُ بِهَا شَيْئًا مِنْ حَقِّهِ فَلَا يَأْخُذُهُ فَإِنَّمَا أَقْطَعُ لَهُ قِطْعَةً مِنَ النَّارِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that, just based on your words, I give the verdict. So, if sometimes, when you in your speech, you're very articulate, and you can put your argument very nicely, but you may be lying. And you may not be mentioning all the facts, and the other person may not be doing that, and the person is not able to articulate himself, and he just puts the facts. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that in reality, if I give verdict in your favor and you don't deserve it, then you are actually taking a piece of fire into your stomach, and you are not walking out with property, rather you're walking out with what? Fire. When the Sahabahs, when they heard this, they cried. Look at this immediately. In today's time, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yes, Shaykh, no, don't worry. Yeah, I know all those things. Leave it. Yes, you gave me, you made it in my favor. That's it. These two companions, فَبَكَى الرَّجُلَانِ وَقَالَ كُلُّ وَاحِدٍ. When they heard this consequence, they said that, what if, we mentioned something, but maybe the reality is not like that. So they became so fearful. They had fear of Allah. They can care less of the property of this world. So what did they say? Ya Rasulullah, haqqi lahu. I'm ready to give my right to him. You know what? Just let him take it. Just in case I don't want to take someone else's share. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Amma idha fa'altuma ma fa'altuma fadhhaba. If you want to do what you want to do, you can do whatever you want. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you can distribute each other, and at the very same time, you forgive each other. So you both distribute the property, and then you forgive each other. So that way you have ended the story here, and you will not, open up this case again. And that's what they did. Nevertheless, this is what we find from the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's talk about another story. Obviously, these stories really tell us a lot. There's a story mentioned about Umar Farooq radiallahu anhu and Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu. The justice system at the time of Umar radiallahu anhu is phenomenal. Now, Amirul Mu'mineen, who was well known for his just, and he was, obviously obviously people had lots of respect for him, people also had fear for him, etc. But, even though he had that, capacity, that caliber of awe in people, but despite that, when it came for justice, he treated everyone equally. He will come down to a civilian level of civilian. And this was the beauty of Islam. So there is a story mentioned about Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu and Umar radiallahu anhu. Amazing story, subhanallah. There was a property dispute. So Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, just like how we have problem in our properties and issues, they also had this. So just because Umar radiallahu anhu is Amirul Mu'mineen, it's not that he can be taken, no one can question him. So Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu, who was a Qari, who was a great scholar, we talked about him last week. He came, he said that, Oh Amirul Mu'mineen, because you're Amirul Mu'mineen, I may not be able to say anything against you, but I don't agree with this, with the system here. I feel that, you have taken my land. So Amirul Mu'mineen said, okay, let's appoint a person. Appoint a judge. Let's go to a judge. Let's go to someone. So Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu, Umar did not choose. Who chose? Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu. Okay, let's go to Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu. They go to Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu. Then when they go to Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu, obviously Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu, he had respect for Amir al-Mu'mineen. It's like the Prime Minister coming to your own house. Obviously you can have so much respect for Prime Minister. So now, when he comes, what Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu did, obviously I'm not going to read the Arabic part, he made Umar radiallahu anhu sit by the head side and on his bed, and Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu on the leg side. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu said to Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu, this is not how you do justice. I am a civilian before you. You have to treat me and him equally. And we should be sitting together. There should be no distinction between me and him. You may have respect for me, but in this particular matter, we are both equal, and we have to sit together in the same place. There should be no distinction at all. Just imagine this. Look at the system. Look at the beauty of system. And then Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu did exactly the same thing. Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu, he was summoned to produce witnesses, but he didn't have any witness. So Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu, Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu said, either you withdraw the case because you don't have any witness, or we will have to make Amirul Mu'mineen take qasam. Because al-bayyinatu ala al-mudda'i wal yaminu ala man ankar. The principle is that the person who makes a claim, he has to produce witnesses. And if he does not have any witnesses, then the defendant, he will have to take qasam and take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this particular matter, Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu was telling Ubay bin Ka'b, look, you don't have any witnesses, so let's give the favor, let me not make him take qasam. But Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu wanted to take him qasam, so he took qasam. And obviously the case ended. But the point I want to make in this story here is that look at it. Look how Umar radiallahu anhu, how low he would come down to the lowest of civilian when it came for justice. And this is exactly what we need. Whether it's a big sheikh and whether it's an ordinary person. When it comes for justice and fairness, it can be anyone, but everyone is equal. And this is what Islam was about. Another story, there was another story related to, subhanallah, such an amazing story this one is. One day, Umar radiallahu anhu, he heard of someone told him about a woman. And this woman, Mughayyiba means a woman whose husband was not present. He had gone, maybe journey or something like that. He was gone for a long time. So now what was happening was, people were coming and people were frequenting her house. So there was some kind of question mark that, woman is alone. Why are people going to her house? Why are people going there? So someone brought this news to Amir al-Mu'minin Umar radiallahu anhu. So Umar radiallahu anhu said, call that woman. I want to speak to her. So the messenger went to the woman, and the woman, as soon as she heard that Amir al-Mu'mineen is asking me to come over to him, she's like, what? Why do I need to go there? For what reason? She became scared. And she was terrified that I need to go before Amir al-Mu'mineen. For what? What is he going to do to me? He will question me. And she was pregnant. So now when she came and she was walking, the fear was so overwhelming that immediately she gave birth to the child. She went in labor. And the child, made some noise, and immediately the child passed away. Now, obviously, she could not come. Now, this matter was in the council of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu an, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, look at the fear of Umar radiallahu an. Umar radiallahu anhu says, فَاسْتَشَارُ عُمَرْ أَصْحَابَ النَّبِيِّ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. Immediately, subhanallah. Is there any fault of Umar radiallahu anhu here? Tell me. There's a problem going in the house. So all Amir al-Mu'mineen is doing is calling the woman for what? Just to find out what's happening, what is the reality. That's all. Nothing else. But she comes and she herself became scared. Umar radiallahu anhu did not even speak to her. But despite that now, Umar radiallahu anhu has a fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Umar radiallahu anhu say? He said that he made mashwara with who? Sahaba radiallahu majma'een. And after making mashwara with Sahaba radiallahu majma'een, all the Sahabahs said, except for one, they all said, Laysa alayka shay'un. You don't need to give anything. Because it's not your fault. You just asked her to come, and she went into labor, and the child died. Ali radiallahu anhu, فَأَقْبَلَ عَلَى عَلِيٍّ. And then he turned towards Ali radiallahu anhu. Those people who say that Umar radiallahu anhu never used to get along, look, he's making mashwara with Ali radiallahu anhu. Ali radiallahu anhu said, مَا تَقُولُ. What do you say, oh Ali radiallahu anhu? And remember last week I had mentioned to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed it with unique sifat and qualities of justice to Ali radiallahu anhu. So Ali radiallahu anhu says, إِنَّمَا كَانُوا قَالُوا بِرَأْيِهِمْ فَقَدْ أَخْطَأَ رَأْيُهُمْ وَإِنْ كَانُوا قَالُوا فِي هَوَاكَ فَلَمْ يَنْصَحُوا لَكَ. Have they said this, all these companions, whatever they told you, have they said based on some information, some facts? Or is it just based on their opinion? If it's just based on their opinion, then there is no good in it. And then he said, أَرَى أَنَّ دِيَّتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. I feel that you will have to execute the blood money of the child. Who is saying this? Ali radiallahu anhu is telling Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Prime Minister, that you will have to give the blood money to who? That mother for the child. And you are responsible for the death. Why? He says, فَإِنَّكَ أَنْتَ أَفْزَعْتَهَا. It is you, because of you she became scared. And it was because of your awe and fear she went into labor. Amir al-Mu'mineen, فَأَمَرَ عَلِيًّا رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْ أَن يُقَسِّمَ عَقْلَهُ عَلَى قُرَيْشٍ. Immediately, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu accepted this verdict of Ali radiallahu anhu, and he executed the blood money. For who? For who? That child. Look at this fairness and justice. Within who? Sahaba radiallahu majma'een. And my brothers, I just want to give you a few more examples here, but I want you to understand that, if these cases were to be in our society, how would we do this? How would we treat our own people? And how would we get along with one another? Another beautiful story. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu an, subhanallah. One day he was passing by. لما قدمنا مع ابن الخطاب رضي الله عنه عن الجابية إذا هو بشيخ من أهل الذمة يستطعمه. One day we were coming along with Amir al-Mu'mineen رضي الله عنه, Umar ibn Khattab رضي الله عنه, and we passed by an old person. And this old person, he was يستطعمه. He was asking for food. And he was not a Muslim. He was a dhimmi. He was staying in Islamic country, and he used to give tax. And that tax was bare minimum. Nevertheless, he would stay in a Muslim country and would give jizya and tax. And he was asking for food. So Amir al-Mu'mineen, فَسَأَلَ عَنْهُ, Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu asked regarding this person here. So they said, هَذَا رَجُلٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ ذِمَّةِ. This is a person from what? أهل ذمة, meaning from the dhimmis. And كَبُرَ وَضَعُفَ. He's become old and he's become weak. فَوَضَعَ عَنْهُ عُمَرُ. Umar radiallahu anhu immediately took that tax money out from this person here. And then he said, وَقَالْ كَلَّفْتُمُوهُ الْجِزْيَةَ حَتَّى إِذَا ضَعُفَ تَرَكْتُمُوهُ يَسْتَطْعِمُ. He said that, when he was young, healthy, you used to take tax from him. And now when he has become old, he has been put into the position where he has to beg people. What did he do? Immediately, Umar radiallahu anhu, فَأَجْرَى عَلَيْهِ مِنْ بَيْتِ الْمَالِ عَشْرَةَ دَرَاهِمْ. Immediately pension was started. The system of pension based on this person here. The system of pension that was started in the reign of Umar radiallahu anhu. And this was not based on a Muslim. This was basically based on a non-Muslim who was suffering. When he saw the condition of this person here, he immediately started what? Pension system. That when you're old, throughout the whole life, when he was young and healthy, we used to take money from him. And we used to take service from the person. And now when he has become old, he's not able to look after himself. Who's going to look after him? We have to look after him. So immediately the pension was started. Look at the beauty of this here. And in fact, in one narration it is mentioned, these were the words of Umar radiallahu anhu. He said, "Ma ansafnaka, ma ansafnaka." We did not do justice with you. He's talking to who? The dhimmi. He's not even a Muslim. What is he saying? We did not do justice with you. Kunna akhadna minka al-jizyata fi shabibatika. We used to take what? Money when you were young. We used to take money from you. We used to take tax from you. ثُمَّ ضَيَّعْنَاكَ فِي كِبْرِكَ. And we have destroyed you, we have ruined you when you have become old. And then ثُمَّ أَجْرَ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ بَيْتِ الْمَالِ. And immediately he started what? Pension from Bayt al-Mal. Look at this here. Look at this justice and fairness that we find within Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in. Obviously we can carry on. There are many, many examples. Just two more examples I want to share with you. There are so many examples that I can give you, but I don't have time because obviously Isha time will be coming in. But Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in were extremely particular when it came for fairness. Now this fairness was not limited and restricted to human beings only. It was with the slaves, and it was also with who? The animals. Now let me give an example with the slave now. Uthman radiallahu anhu. Uthman radiallahu anhu, obviously Amirul Mu'mineen, the third Khalif. It is mentioned, كان لعثمان رضي الله عنه عبد. Uthman radiallahu anhu had a slave. فقال له إني كنت عرقت أذنك فاقتص مني. Subhanallah. Look at the fear of Allah they had. He says, "Oh my slave, one day because you were naughty, you were not doing your job properly, I twisted your ears. I twisted your ears one day." So he says, فَاقْتَصَ مِنِّي. Why don't you take revenge? The master is telling who? The slave. I hope you can understand and appreciate the system, Islamic slavery system versus what? The slavery that existed in North America. I'm sure, did you read? Do you know anything about the slave trade that exists in North America? How the slaves were brought to North America from African world? Who's read that? Anyone has read that? Yeah. Very few. No one knows that. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Then how would you understand it? You will never appreciate the slavery in Islam. And obviously Islam always made it in such a way that they would be free from this from slavery. And if you look at 200 years ago, or not even 200 years ago, the slavery that existed in North America, it is something that you cannot even imagine. When you compare that with Islam, subhanallah. I don't want to mention that, but you should study that. Nevertheless, so he says, Uthman radiallahu anhu, who is a master, and not only a master, he's what? Amirul Mu'mineen. He's telling his slave that, why don't you take revenge from me? So he said, فَأَخَذَ بِأُذُنِهِ. The slave did. The slave took, grabbed his ears. ثُمَّ قَالَ عُثْمَانَ Ushdud. Don't make it more harder. Ushdud, make it harder. And then look what Uthman radiallahu anhu said. He said, Ya habbada qassas fi dunya. Ya habbada qassas fi dunya. How good is this a person who's taking a retribution? How good is this person who's taking retribution and revenge in this world? How good is this person? La qassas fil akhirah. Inshallah, there will be no one who will be taking retribution and revenge on the Day of Judgment. You take retribution in this world, but there will be no retribution in hereafter. That's how particular they were, my brothers. They twisted, I ask you, subhanAllah, I'm not asking that the son should never do that to a father, but I'm just saying, imagine a father telling the son, when you were young, you were naughty, so I twisted your ears. why don't you do the same thing? Obviously, this is against the respect of a father. You should never ever do that. But just imagine this. This was the system in Islam. The fairness within the Sahaba radiallahu majma'in. Amirul Mu'mineen and a slave. But look at their connection in terms of fairness. One more story before we conclude. A bird, subhanallah. Justice with bird, animals. This is a unique story. قدم عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عن مكة. أمير المؤمنين عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه comes to Mecca. فدخل دار الندوة. He came to Dar al-Nadwa. This was the place where they used to counsel. Before Islam, they used to get together and make all kinds of plans against Islam and whatnot. So this is part of Masjid al-Haram right now. So he came on the day of Friday. وَأَرَادَ أَن يَسْتَقْرِبَ مِنْهَا الْرُوَى. So he wanted to come to the masjid and take rest in the masjid. فَأَلْقَى رِضَاءَهُ عَلَى وَاقِفٍ فِي الْبَيْتِ. So he hung his garment, his upper garment, he hung it. When he did this, what happened was فَوَقَعَ عَلَيْهِ طَيْرٌ مِنْ هَذَا الْمِنَى. So what happened was a bird came and sat on it. Now because the bird came, he didn't want the bird to poo on it. The other day, in the mid-air, I was passing by, when Shaykh Abdul Hamid's program took place, in the mid-air, I'm like, whoa, what's coming? And all of a sudden, I had new clothes on it, nicely crispy ironed clothes. And you see nice, beautiful, thing coming on it, right? So sometimes, obviously, it's a day of Friday. It's Friday, and you want to maintain your clothes nicely. And so, he hung those, garments up. So the bird came, and he sat on it. So he wanted to, so he removed the garment, so the bird can fly away and it doesn't sit on it. So when he did this, the bird flew and it went to another place. And when the place where it went to, it sat down there, and there was a snake or some venomous animal. Immediately it got hold of the bird. As soon as the bird went there. And Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu is looking at this. So what happened was, basically he removed his garment so that he doesn't poo on his thing. And when the bird went to the other place, at the moment he sat down, I don't know what it was, alligator, whatever, it may be snake. Over here it says hayya, which is snake, but whatever animal it was, it got hold of the bird, and the bird was dead. فَقَتَلَتْهُ. Now فَوَجَدْتُ فِي نَفْسِي أَنِّي أَطَرْتُهُ مِنْ مَنْزِلٍ كَانَ فِيهِ آمِنًا إِلَى مَوْقِعَةٍ كَانَ فِيهَا حَتْفُهُ. What does he mention? So it came to my heart. It came to my heart. Who is saying that? Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu is saying, فَوَجَدْتُ فِي نَفْسِي. I felt that إِنِّي أَطَرْتُهُ. I am the one who made this bird fly and move from one place to another place. He was in a place of safety. I wasn't going to hurt him. I was going to shoot him. I wouldn't have done that. So he was in a place of safety when he was sitting on my cloth, on my garment. But I made him flew from there, and he went somewhere else. And the place where he went to, that's where the death came. So فَقُلْتُ لِعُثْمَانِ بْنِ عَفَّانَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. So he tells Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu that, what do I do with this? Subhanallah, can you ever think of something like this? This is Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Look at the fairness and justice. So كيف ترى في عنز ثنية عفراء تحكم بها على أمير المؤمنين. So he says, what should I do? He says, you will have to, why don't you slaughter an animal, a goat, and give sadaqah in replace of, this bird, whose life, although he was not the means, but he felt that he was the means of taking the life of that bird. And as a result of that, he gave sadaqah. In some narration, it's mentioned that 3 goats were given sadaqah. Just because of what? Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu made the bird fly from one place to another place, and that's where he died. Now look at this fairness. All I have done, my brothers, my beloved youngsters, all I have done right now is just giving you few synopses and few examples of the justice and fairness within Sahaba radiallahu majma'in. The topic is so long, and we can talk about many, many stories like that. But we don't have time to go into. But my brothers and my beloved youngsters, we learn. Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, they showed us what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. I'dilu, be just, be fair. Walau ala anfusikum, even if you have to go against your parents, even if you have to go against your relatives, even if you have to go against your parents, your relatives, but be fair and just. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in showed us to be fair, even if their own ego and their own self provoked them against their own wishes, but they were still fair. My brothers, I ask you, when was there a time it was your own father, it was your own brother, it was your own self, you knew it was wrong completely, but you stood up and you spoke the truth? When was that time, my brothers? Let's make an azm today, my brothers. You know these two ayahs I recited, and in the light of the lifestyle of Sahaba radiallahu majma'in, let's make this resolution and azm today, my brothers, that we all can stand up for justice. Can we do this, inshallah? Within our capacity, inshallah, we will stand up. And we will be fair to everyone. And my brothers, Islam does not discriminate. Whether it's an animal, everything has rights. Whether it's animals, whether it is slaves, whether it is non-Muslims, whoever it may be, Islam does not discriminate. Islam says, and the teaching of Islam is, every human being, every living thing deserves fairness and justice. And that is what we stand up for. Inshallah, we can do this. Just two announcements before we conclude this program here. Obviously, there's an ijtima taking place, and obviously this is the most spiritual place that I can always think of, and I yearn to go to this place here. Subhanallah, when you have thousands of people lining up, and get the feeling that you get, the atmosphere you get, and subhanallah, people are involved in azkar and things like that. So this will be starting from Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, till Monday, and this will be taking place in International Center, which is located on Airport Road, hall number 6, I believe. And along with that, Shaykh Abdul Hamid, who was here with us 2 weeks ago, his program, his CDs, that the workshop, 1 hour CD, and also the Maghrib program CD is available. So if anyone wants that, you can contact Maulana Hassan, Maulana Hassan Ali, and Brother Bilal. They are responsible for this. Inshallah, they will help you with this. Let's make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma lakal hamdu kulluhu wa lakal shukru kulluhu wa ilayka yarju al-amru kulluhu. Allahumma la nuhsi thana'an alayka anta kama asnayta ala nafsik. Wallah, pardon our sins. Wallah, forgive our sins. Wallah, we ask you, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, help us to be just and fair. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, in small matters, Ya Allah, even like a small test, Ya Allah, we cheat, Ya Allah, we deceive people. Ya Allah, allow us, Ya Allah, to be just in every matter of ours. Ya Allah, even if it may be a simple math question that we're doing, let us not be, Ya Allah, let us not cheat, rather let us be fair. Ya Allah, in every matter and every aspect of our life, Ya Allah, let us be fair. Even if it goes against ourselves, Ya Allah, even if it goes against, Ya Allah, our own close friends, Ya Allah, allow us to be fair. Ya Allah, give us the courage and ability to be fair to one another. Ya Allah, this is something that we are lacking. Ya Allah, the whole world, Ya Allah, many people we find, Ya Allah, they take sides just because they have connection to one another, Ya Allah, but they are not ready to stand up, Ya Allah, for justice. Ya Allah, allow us to be just and fair to, Ya Allah, to anyone, everyone, Ya Allah, be it Muslim, non-Muslim, Ya Allah, and Ya Allah, any deficiency that comes in it, Ya Allah, forgive us. Ya Allah, accept our dua. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.